So without further ado, let me bring up Dr. Cantarelli, who is the co-director of the Brothers for Excellence program at Hunter College.
So this is really a pleasure because I love this guy, Shawn Dove. So many of you have heard throughout the day, how lucky we are that he is wrapping up our day. And while he is the executive director of the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, that also makes him a social entrepreneur. Because he spun that out of his work at the Soros Foundation. But, you can read that piece, in the program. There are also dimensions of him that I hope he doesn't mind my sharing. In my neighborhood, I walk past the Dome Project all the time, and I think of him because Shawn was not always the perfect person that we know him to be now, and the Dome Project was where he was launched, and which led him to the path that he has since been on, whether it was leading him to the Beacon schools where he began working in education. He needed some program to help nurture him and recognize his talents and virtues. On the other end of the spectrum of his life, what I also appreciate and value is that he walks the walk. And, he created a new entity, in addition to the Campaign for Black Male Achievement. He created a new entity called Proud Papa because he is one. And as a father and as a husband, he really represents the values that we want to see and inspire in all our young Black men. So, we are always excited at Hunter when he comes to speak to our guys because they know he's going to hear a real and authentic voice, that he comes from something deep within and a passion for this work. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce someone I like to call a friend and a colleague, Shawn Dove.
I know it's the end of the day, but we could do better than that. In fact, let's everybody stand and give ourselves a standing ovation. Stand like you a big Met fan and you already see them winning the World Series. Stand and give an ovation like you love Black people, Latino people, you love yourself. Give yourself a standing ovation. All right, you can sit down now. You ask people to give themselves a standing ovation, and they don't want to sit down. And let me tell you why I did that and why I asked for a standing ovation, for a couple of reasons. The first reason I asked for a standing ovation is whenever I'm in front of young people, I tell them, that's right, you are young people compared to me. I tell them you can't wait for anybody to give you a standing ovation. You may want a standing ovation from your professor when you thought that you deserved an A and he or she gave you a B and you don't get that. You may even want a standing ovation from your parents. And how many times have we been waiting for standing ovation from our parents? We don't get that, right? How many of us want standing ovations from our boo? Raise your hand. A lot of times we don't get standing ovations from our boo, right? Just a lot of boo-hoo from our boo. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to wait for anybody to give you a standing ovation. That you wake up, look in the mirror every day, and give yourself a standing ovation because you deserve it. So thank you for doing that for yourselves. The other reason why I asked for a standing ovation is, so I just want to say, where's Jermaine Wright? Okay, can we give him a round of applause? Nothing happens without leadership. And I used to think that Jermaine and I were cool, right? But he invited me to come speak. And first, he says, you're speaking, but you're the last speaker, which means you're going to have to speak after the incredible David Johns and Shawn Harper. I was like, God, okay, I think I can do that, all right. Then he says, you're speaking right before dinner. I was like, God, right before dinner? What time the program start? People won't be there from 8:30? I was like, And I was convinced, though, when I got here this afternoon. So I was here this morning. I was in an auditorium, jam-packed. When I got here this evening, he said, oh, well, we switched the room. And I come up here, I was like, not only does he have me speaking after Shawn and David, not only does he have me speaking before dinner, because he told me you're standing in between dinner, he got me in the room with the food. So I'm up here smelling chicken. I think I peeped some corn on the cob. And I know people are already like, is he done yet? So I decided to ask for my standing ovation in the beginning. Thank you very much. I will be very quick. And I want to thank my sister, Marcia Contrella, who is a heart that is bigger than this nation, and the work that you have done at Hunter and just in the community, and inviting me every year to come and just to share and talk and tell some stories to your young men at Hunter. I want to thank you for that. And the most important line in my bio is the bottom line, which is I am married to my divine mate, Desiree, and I am the father of Nia, Maya, Cameron, and Caleb, 4 children. Rev, is it okay if I ask them to pray for me? Right? I have 4 teenagers in the house now, and often days my prayer is, Lord, please forgive them. They know not that they dance on my last nerve. But you know what? I didn't wake up one day in my life to say, good morning, Dad. And so much what CUNY BMI is about is shifting the narrative. It's about doing some things in our lives that we have never done before with the support of mentors, educators. And so just because, and I know some of you may be in the same situation that I was growing up, not one day waking up saying, good morning, Dad, but that doesn't mean we have to repeat that cycle. And I remember one night that my son Cameron was crying in the middle of the night. It was a thunderstorm, and he was calling for his daddy. I turned over, I was like, why isn't he calling for his mother? 3 o'clock in the morning. He was scared. I went into the room, hushed him to sleep, said a little prayer, and then when I got into my bed, I was like, wow, I wonder what that is like, to call for your father in the middle of the night and he's there. And I said, Shawn, just because you don't and you didn't have that, that doesn't mean that you can't be that for your son. So I'm here just to say, this is about new beginnings. This is about doing things you have never done before. And I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you for the standing ovation. I have a couple pictures that I want to show. So that is me and my boys back in the 70s. I know it was a bad hair day for me. I don't know, I think I had a hat on that day. But I also had to show this reminder, don't get fooled or don't get it twisted when you see me up here with this suit. Don't get it twisted when you hear my bio, because I was just like you a very, very long time ago. And Marcia told the story of the Dome Project for me. Let me just share a few nuggets about mentorship. But even before mentorship, my mom, Deanna, was on point, Jamaican mom, and education was real important to her. But around 12, 13 years old, I started hanging out. My mother was working. I discovered a corner on 80th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, and I staked claim to that corner, and I began to sell loose joints. Now, I know nobody in here knows anything about loose joints. If you do, just, look straight ahead. You can blink at me, I got some of y'all fronting, loose joints, what are you talking about? Y'all know what I'm talking about. And I was on the corner of 80th Street selling loose joints, and I didn't have to do that. But I was just hanging out with my friends, doing the same thing they was doing. And I came up with some really catchy marketing phrases, like pass me by, you won't get high. And I'm selling loose joints. Then one day my friends came up to me, and they said there's this youth program called the Dome Project. And so, I was a baller. You can see I got my citywide t-shirt. I was a baller back in the day. And they said the Dome Project has started a basketball team, and they were giving away uniforms and sneakers for free. And I ran down to the Dome Project, and when I got there, they had given away the last pair of sneakers and the last uniform. I was dejected. But I walked into this room, this big room, and there was a bunch of young people in there. And there was a bunch of caring adults. There was kids in the corner playing backgammon. There was kids doing homework, playing Connect Four. And they were all getting support by adults. There was one adult that they kept saying, John, I need help with this. John, I need help with that. And I was like, who is this John? And he was the coach. Now, my mother had a lot of books in the bookshelf, and I used to read the books. And quite frankly, in my adolescent years, I would pick out books and try to find some sex scenes in the book. That's what a 13, 14-year-old was doing. But she had one book called Helter Skelter, and it was about Charles Manson. And when I saw John was this 6'2" white guy with a full beard, and I said, he looks like Charles Manson. And I said, what is this, a cult? And it wasn't a cult, it was a youth program. And I'm also here to tell you with mentorship, you don't need to know who God is going to send to help you, right? You can be drowning and a 4-foot, one-legged Asian person comes to your rescue, and you're going to be like, no, I'm waiting for my brother to come rescue me, and you're going to drown, right? So, what color is your hope? It's about humanity and love. So I've had all kinds of mentors, but John turned out to be my coach. And one day, because I eventually got on the team, he said to me, Shawn, you have potential. You can do some great things if you stop hanging on the corner of 80th Street and Amsterdam Avenue. How many of you were doing some things where you thought you were getting away with it, and adults, your parents or your adults knew all about it, right? I wasn't too bright. My corner was 2 blocks away from the Dome. And John did not say anything that my mother did not tell me almost every day. But sometimes growing up, there is such immense power with hearing the right word from the right person at the right time that can be transformational. And I took John up on that offer. Started coming to the Dome after school, every day doing homework. The basketball team, before we got on the court, we had to read. He had us in a circle reading books like Man, Child, and The Promised Land. Great Expectations. Got my first job with the Dome Project. Got a prep school scholarship, did my first 2 years at Brooklyn Tech. And then I got a chance to go away to this prep school. And it was all through this relationship with John. And as God would have it, 12 years after I walked through the Dome Project's doors, I came back to be its executive director. And I'm here to tell you that there is power in mentoring. Power in mentoring. And there's also power in sisterhood and brotherhood, right? You see the three of us, we were inseparable. We were like three the hard way. We had each other's back. And I'm here to say that you don't know who you are sitting next to that might be the person that offers you a job when you need one, or might be the person when you're looking to hire someone that has the skills. So much is about unity and staying together, right? So, you know, this is a parable of the talents, right, and the three servants. And there's a remix to that I like. And we know this story, and I'll run through it really quickly, right? The master was going on a far journey, and he came and he gave one servant 5 talents. He gave another servant 2 talents. Then he gave another one 1 talent, and then he went on about his business, right? The brother that had the 5 talents, he went to the marketplace, he started hustling, and he doubled that, right? The brother had 2 talents, and they gave him the talents each according to their ability. He went to the marketplace, he started hustling, and he doubled that, right? But what about the brother that had the 1 talent? What did he do? He did what? He buried it. Why did he bury it? He was what? He was afraid. He was scared, right? And I always think about what would have happened, because when the master came back, he rewarded the 5 talent brother and he rewarded the 2 talent brother, but the 1 talent brother that hid his talent, didn't even put it in the bank to get interest, he received a lot of pain, right? I always wonder what would have happened if the 5 talent brother would have went to the 2 talent brother, and let's find this 1 talent brother that buried his talents, got his talent, and they formed 3 Servants Incorporated, and they all got paid. And when the master came back, everyone was set. If you don't hear anything today from 8:30 to the next chicken wing that's about to come out, we need unity. And I will tell you, this day is powerful. If we had hundreds of beautiful brown and black people somewhere and we were fighting, if we were doing something negative, you know, the cameras would have been here. The news stories would have been here. ABC, News One, right? This is the biggest story in New York City today, and it should be front page story. So we got to become masters of our own media. You have to tell the nation what happened here today. How many of us on social media? Twitter, Facebook. A few of y'all probably still on MySpace, but you won't admit it. No, right? Tell the world what happened here today and share it, right? So a couple of stories I want to tell and keep going. I showed the picture earlier. The guy in the corner there is Mentor Man. I used to run the Mentoring Partnership of New York, and I started the Male Mentoring Project while I was there. Because when I spoke to program leaders and I asked them what were their challenges, the first thing they said, what do you think the first thing they said about running a mentoring program that was hard for them? What? Money? It was funding. What do you think the second thing they said was the challenge? Money. What do you think the third thing was? Money. By the time they got to the fourth thing, they said, we don't have enough male mentors for our young men, our black and Latino young men. We have waiting lists forever. And I created something called the Male Mentoring Project, and I had this whole bright idea. I had my graphic designer design that guy. I called him Mentor Man, and he was a black superhero, because I remember growing up reading comic books when I discovered the Falcon, who was the sidekick of Captain America, and I was like, whoa, a black superhero, and how great that made me feel reading those comics. And I had this idea that I was going to get a uniform just like Mentor Man, and we had this annual Mentor Day, and I was going to come out for the kids as Mentor Man. How many of you know that every idea you have is not a good idea? Fortunately for everybody, I never lost the 40 pounds that I needed to do that, right? But mentoring is about being superheroes, right? Who's that superhero up there in the middle? Who is that? The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, right? And the thing about the Human Torch is that he would never turn into fire, into the Human Torch, until he said what? Until he said what? Guy's so smart, the answer's right there, right? Flame on. And I'm here to tell you, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth, because your future resides in your mouth. Johnny Storm would not turn on to fire until he spoke it. And the question is, what are you speaking? What are we speaking about our young brothers in this nation, in this city? Because we got enough negative stuff that's being said to others. What are we saying to ourselves? So we have to flame on. Nothing happens until it is spoken. I remember very vividly in my basketball days, I used to play in this tournament, CYO. I had this coach at St. Matthew's and St. Timothy's, Coach Norman. And you know how from your childhood, there's certain things you remember. And I was always a better practice player than in the game. And I remember taking a shot during the game, and the coach was on the side, and as I was shooting it, he was like, "That's good." I missed the shot. But what stuck with me was that he believed that I can make that shot. And then right after that, I was like, I guess I am a good shooter. The same thing that John said to me, Shawn, you have potential. We talk about closing the achievement gap. We talk about closing the opportunity gap. What we have got to close is the belief gap. The belief that our young men can succeed. Closing the belief gap. And we don't need no saviors. We need believers. We don't need saviors paratrooping into our communities to save the day. We just need people that believe in us, right? And I'm here to tell you that the cavalry is not coming. The cavalry is not coming to save the day in our communities. There is no presidential, my brother's keeper limo coming down your block, coming to your campus. The iconic leaders that we're waiting for, they're at your table. They're in this room. The cavalry is not coming. Next slide. What's that? Obsession. Anybody in here wear Obsession cologne? Nobody? Well, I'm glad I stopped using it because I would have been the only one in here with Obsession cologne on. When I took over the campaign for Black Male Achievement in 2008 at the Open Society Foundations, which has become the largest philanthropic effort to improve the life outcomes of black men and boys, I went on a learning and listening tour, right? What, cologne? Obsession? Oh, you're just saying hi? Oh, okay, all right. And the Washington, D.C. director, a guy named Steve Rickard, he said something to me that I will never forget. And so he's working down in D.C., Capitol Hill, high politics, and he said to me, Shawn, nothing changes in D.C. until someone becomes obsessed about it. Nothing changes until someone becomes obsessed about it. And we know about obsession, right? Something that we have to have. Something that we're going to keep knocking for. Something that we won't take no for. Something that we have this image in our mind and we're obsessed and we got to have it, right? We can be obsessed about some good things and we can be obsessed about some bad things. And my question to you is, what are you obsessed about? One of my mentors, Richard Murphy, the late Richard Murphy, worked for Mayor Dinkins over 20 years ago. He was the first African-American mayor in New York City, and so far the only. And Richard Murphy was his commissioner for youth services. And Murphy had this vision for Dinkins to create what's called Beacon Schools. Anybody ever heard of Beacon Schools, right? So he presented Dinkins with this proposal. But somebody else presented Dinkins with another proposal. And that proposal was to create a prison barge that would float around New York, Manhattan, the island of Manhattan. $5 million for a prison barge that would float around Manhattan. So Dinkins had folks saying, look, you got to get tough on crime. You got to create this prison barge. And guess who was going to be on that barge? Who was going to be on that barge? Brothers that look like Andrew, right? Brothers that look like Jermaine, right? But Murphy was obsessed about this Beacon Schools, and every day he was like knocking on Dinkins' door, knocking on Dinkins' door. And Dinkins was in like a real quandary. He has a constituency over here telling him get tough on crime. He has his youth services director, and I can tell you his heart on this side to create these Beacon Schools. Murphy was obsessed. And the question is, what are you obsessed about? Because when Dinkins had to make the decision at the 11th hour, guess who was knocking on his door? It was Richard Murphy. And he invested the $5 million in Beacon Schools and not that prison barge. So I challenge you to get obsessed about your success. And then you should always ask yourself and write it down. This is for the brothers in here. How many of you keep a journal? Raise your hand. Raise your hand high. Right? Now, it doesn't have to be a diary, but you have got to write down your goals and your dreams. And you have got to write down what winning looks like for you. We're celebrating 10 years of BMI success. 12 years ago, it was just an idea in a few people's head. 11 years ago, it was just a proposal on a piece of paper that was written down. And here we are, celebrating 10 years. And I know that Shawn, Bess, and Jermaine Wright are writing down what does winning look like for BMI 10 years down the line. So the question is, what does winning look like? And some people might say that this is what winning looks like. We have Paul Forbes here. Raise your hand, Paul, stand up. He's the director of the Expanded Success Initiative. This picture is the launch of the Young Men's Initiative, which is the largest comprehensive municipal-wide strategy to improve life outcomes for black men and boys and Latino boys in the nation. So I was there for the launch, as you can see. Standing next to me is George Soros, my former boss, the founder of Open Society Foundations. He, at the time, was worth about $25 billion. And, you know, standing next to George Soros is the former mayor, Mayor Bloomberg. At the time, I think he was worth about $30 million. And the way they cut the deal, right? And I forgot the brother's name that's standing there with them, but he was like, I'm down with this, right? You see him standing there? So George Soros called me one day and he said, Mike Bloomberg asked me to match him $30 million to help launch the Young Men's Initiative. What do you think I should do? I'm like, oh, that's your money, right? I said, it's a great idea. And so they matched that, right? And that was the launch. And so some people may think that that's what winning looks like. And the Young Men's Initiative is continuing. It's impacting lives. Paul Forbes and what he's doing with ESI is transforming not only the minds, but the hearts of young men of color in this city, right? But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to be a billionaire to flip the script for our young people. You can be a willionaire. And the willionaire is anybody that has the will to win on behalf of our community. We got any millionaires? I'm a millionaire. Any millionaires in the room, right? You don't have to be a billionaire. You can be a millionaire. So some people may say that that is what winning looks like. But I disagree. Some people may say that this is what winning looks like. This is the day that we took black male achievement to the White House. This was shortly after the summer of the verdict and the speech. And what do I mean by the summer of the verdict of the speech? In 2013, George Zimmerman got a not guilty verdict for killing Trayvon Martin. A week later, President Obama made an impromptu speech in the press room, and he challenged this nation to find a way, a better way, a way on how we invest and view and help value black men and boys in the country, right? So he made that speech, and that was the beginning of the planning for My Brother's Keeper, which has become a national effort, right? Has engaged the private sector in ways that they haven't done before. And this was the meeting where we were convincing the president, after we did our research, to launch My Brother's Keeper initiative. Don't ask me what I'm saying, right? I don't remember. I was all cool, this is no big deal. But when he walked into the room, I was like, damn, that's the president. I don't know what I was saying. I don't know what he was thinking. I got his attention. He's probably saying, I gotta tighten up security. We got these crazy brothers in here, fanatical, obsessed about black male achievement. So some people may think that that's what winning looks like. But I will tell you, for me, that's not what winning looks like. This is what winning looks like to me. What's that? A dollar bill, y'all. But that's not any old dollar bill. There's a story behind that dollar bill. So I share with you, I have 4 children. Cameron and Caleb, my twin boys. A few years ago, as boys do, they were fighting over a toy, and I decided it was time to give them a timeout, and I sent Cameron up to his room. Little did he know, I didn't grow up with timeouts. I grew up with knockout, right? So sent him up to the room for a timeout, not a knockout. Cameron found a dollar bill in his room, and he ripped it up in his anger, right? His oldest sister, Nia, came out of her room to see what's the commotion, what's going on out here. And Nia was the hero of the family. Nia was on honor roll since 1st grade. There was a point when me and my wife, Desiree, would tell the kids to do something. They was like, well, let's check with Nia first, and we'll get back to you. Nia picked up the shreds of the dollar bill, came downstairs in tattletale mode, and said, look what Cameron did. He ripped up the dollar bill, threw it on a kitchen counter she did, said it has no value now, and went back up to the room. Maya, my middle child, who had to struggle through school, speech therapist, stuck in the middle of hero Nia, who learned how to ride a bike in one day. So she got Nia above her, got these cute chubby twins below her. She's the classic middle child. But Maya did something that day that rocked my world. Maya saw that ripped up dollar bill on the counter, got up, and she went in the kitchen drawer, and she got a roll of Scotch tape. That in itself was a feat of ingenuity. I don't know about you, but it was one of those kitchen drawers where you got batteries and wires. You don't know what the wires go to, broken pencils. Sometimes you can't even open it. Anybody got a drawer like that, right? Okay, everybody can identify. So the mere fact that she can go in there and have the conviction that I'm going to get some tape, that was a miracle by itself. But then what Maya did was take that dollar bill and she taped it up and she showed it to me and she said, Daddy, that dollar does have value. That made me cry. And what it also reminded me is we got to stop listening to the supposed experts, the Nias of the world. She hates it when I tell the story. I said, I'm just trying to make a point, daughter. Because there are experts out there that will tell you, or seemingly experts, if you're born in New York City, black or brown boy, you have no future, or the odds of your success are limited. What winning looks like is having the mindset of Maya and being innovative and being able to take that dollar bill and tape it up. And so that's what the challenge is. And that's what CUNY BMI does. What's in your life right now that you are thinking has no value? That you can reach in to that metaphorical drawer, get through the clutter, and find the right thing to fix it. Because the answers that you're looking for are not outside, they're right inside of you. So the challenge is, Nia saw a ripped up dollar bill, Maya saw a whole dollar bill and did something about it. What do you see? All right, I'm winding down because my stomach is starting to growl too, right? So ask the question perpetually, what does winning look like? And write it down. One of my favorite quotes is from a book called Heroic Leadership. And we're all superheroes today. And it says that leaders imagine an inspiring future and strive to shape it rather than passively watching the future happen around them. Heroes extract gold from the opportunities at hand rather than waiting for golden opportunities to be handed to them. And I am here to tell you that you have gold inside of you. I am here to challenge each and every one of you. When we're talking about the young men that's down with CUNY BMI, the best thing that we can do is to help them discover their G-spot. Not that G-spot. There was 5 brothers back there sleeping, and when I said G-spot, they was like, oh, now he's talking. I'm not talking, that's a different workshop, sorry. The G-spot that I'm talking about is your good spot. It's your gift spot. It's your gold spot because you have treasure inside of you. For some of you, it may be your God spot. The best thing that we can do is help our young men discover the gold inside of them that I call their G-spot. So if you don't get anything out of today, you leave here, somebody said to you, well, what did you learn at the 10th anniversary of CUNY BMI? You said, I learned that I'm a gold digger. I'm not only helping other people dig for their gold, I'm digging for mine. And let me tell you about gold. And I always think of Mrs. C, my poetry teacher. I shared with you, I got a prep school scholarship from the Dome Project for 11th and 12th grade of high school. I left my homeboys that you saw in the picture. I left them and I went away to school. And I said, I'm trying something new, this new environment. I said, let me take this poetry class. I couldn't let my boys know that I was taking poetry, right? This was like 1978 on the cusp of hip hop, right? So it wasn't cool to be like, reciting poetry and writing poetry. But I said, I'm far away. They're not going to know anything about it. And I took this poetry class, and I started coming in and reading my poems as an assignment, and the class started clapping. First time I was like, oh, they just being nice, right? They're being nice. I came, read another poem. They started clapping. And I said to Mrs. C, who became my mentor, one of my mentors, I said, who are they clapping for? She said, they're clapping for you. You're a poet, and you don't even know it. And she helped me to discover a G-spot of writing and poetry in me that I never knew that I had. Up until that point, my G-spot was the corner jump shot that I could hit consistently. And the greatest thing that we can do is help our young people discover their G-spot. And their G-spot may be graphic design. Their G-spot may be computers and STEM. Their G-spot may be writing. And it's about exposing them to something. So I grew up old school with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lou Alcindor, and he had a shot. That shot was called what? Sky Hook. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, greatest scorer in the history of the NBA, somebody came up to him and said, if you develop this shot, you can go some places. And he developed his Sky Hook. And his Sky Hook became his G-spot. When he shot that shot, it went in 80% of the time. Kareem discovered his G-spot. The thing about education is not pouring something inside of you, it's pulling something out of you that is already there. And I'm here to tell you, you have gold inside of you. And we need mentors, we need teachers to pull it out of us. And I want to close with a poem that I always dedicate to Mrs. Carlson, because she helped me to discover my G-spot, right? And if you go out and you tell a story, you got to tell a whole story, right? Don't go out and say Shawn Dove's poetry teacher helped him discover his G-spot without explaining it, right? And it goes like this. If ever there was a time for you to dig deep within, it is now, if only you would decide and begin. Mining your soul for your buried gold is why you are here, so dig deep and be bold. It is your purpose, your life's divine mission. It is your calling, so just get still and listen. And you will hear an oh so sweet sound telling you where your gold can be found. And you'd be wise to not let another moment fly by, because the day will come when you'll surely die. Then the question for you will resoundingly be, did you dig deep for your gold for the world to see? Mining your soul for your buried gold is why you are here, so dig deep and be bold. I tell you, it's an honor coming here this morning and walking past all the gold diggers, being in the auditorium, packed auditorium with all the gold diggers, standing right here in this room, this moment, 10-year anniversary of CUNY, BMI, write down the vision for where we're going to be 10 years from now. Brother, you got gold inside of you. Be a gold digger and keep digging. Thank you.
I really don't know how we're going to top this conference. I don't know what we're going to do next year. I think we need to start planning tomorrow for next year. It's just been a remarkable day. Let's give Shawn Dove another round of applause. Of course, we have a parting gift for you as well for coming out and being with us this evening. So let me just go ahead and read your plaque. It reads, Shawn Dove, CEO for the Campaign for Black Male Achievement, in appreciation for your closing keynote lecture at the 10th Annual CUNY BMI Conference entitled Increasing Black and Latino Engagement and Success in Higher Education, John Jay College of Criminal Justice, October 16th. Shawn isn't off the hook yet. We still have a Q&A portion, so we are going to have some questions and answers. So I'm going to count out the amount of swag we have left, and then that will be the number of questions that we take, because I definitely don't want to stand between you and the food. So we're going to try to keep it brief. However, Shawn will be here with us for the duration of the evening, so please feel free to speak with him. He has a great, tremendous wealth of experience as it pertains to the philanthropic world, and just in general. I've learned so much in being, I guess, on his touring circuit within the last 3 weeks or so. I've been at 3 to 4 different events where he's spoken, and I gain some new insight almost every time I hear him speak. And I'm like, I wonder what he's going to pull out of the hat this time. The G-spot wasn't what he spoke about at the other ones. So this is definitely something new that he gave us as well. So I think I'm down to 5 items. So I'll take the first 5 questions, 6 questions, and then we will conclude, and then you all can go ahead and have dinner as our band sets up. So who will be the 5 people that want to ask some questions of Shawn? No one? I find that interesting, which I highly doubt. Don't be shy.
So let me do something while folks are considering, right? Raise your hand if you are a student and you were here today and you've collected at least 10 business cards. Student, Dallas. Student. You're a student? Come up here. Bring the 10 business cards with you. Tell us who the business cards are from.
So we have David J. Johns, my main man. Mrs. Endingo Washington. I got a couple others that ran out of business cards.
All right.
So I had to be
resourceful.
creative. I think I had another one in my jacket. And I had a Dr. Blake from City Tech. I had Keith Johnson, one of the keynote speakers, and Dr. Alvarez, who was in one of the conferences. So
All right, what's your name?
Rashid.
Let's give Rashid a round of applause. And I have a gift for Rashid. It's a cash gift of $100, right? So I'm going to give that to Rashid for raising his hand first. You know, somebody may be sitting there with more business cards, but he raised his hand. I saw him, and the point is, you still have an opportunity, young people. You don't know how much power and influence is in this room. Look around you, make contacts, get business. I don't have another $100, but get business cards. Actually, that was a prop. I want my $100. No. Don't leave here without topping what Rashid did and getting 10, 11 business cards to build your social capital in your network. All right, Rashid?
Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Let me get yours too.
Oh, he's smart. He asked for mine, too.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
So he can send you a thank you note for $500.
Yeah.
That's right.
Good job, yours in there.
I don't have any more, but I could write it down on one of those pieces of papers.
Yeah.
So I'm sure we have questions now. So please, I don't want to go back home with any of this stuff. We don't have a mic stand. So
The question is as simple, like, what's a challenge that you faced in like the last year, and how did you overcome it?
Wow. So the question was, what is a challenge that I faced in the last year, and how did I overcome it? And I would just start that as like there's more than one challenge, right? You live life, there are multiple challenges. But I will say more so than just the last year, but it's lifetime, right? There's this voice in my head that tells me, Shawn, you can do this. Go ahead and do it. And it sounds just like me. But there's also a voice in my head that says, who do you think you are? You can't do that. What do you think you're doing, this big, bad, bold idea? And as Marsha shared, over the last year, I spun off from the campaign. I spun my campaign for Black Male Achievement out of the foundation. I originally asked them for $100 million. I got $10 million. But even after I cut the deal, the challenge was not listening to this voice that was telling me, who do you think you are? You're going to fail. And listening to the voice that said you can do that. And how you overcome that, number one, is prayer, or how I overcome prayer, but also surrounding myself with people that are reinforcing this voice that tells me that I can do it. I don't know about you, but there's certain people that I know in our lives that when you're trying to do something positive, sometimes they have the same last name. They're asking you, who do you think you are? You can't do it, and we'll come up with 10 reasons why you can't. So part of the strategy is knowing who to talk to, knowing who to share the dream to. So that was a challenge for me in this last year. And it wasn't into like 5 months after I spun off, cut the deal, got my office and everything, and one day I was like, you did it. You did it. And this voice was right. And that other voice don't go away, right? So what you focus on grows, and I'm focusing the challenges to focus more on this voice that's telling me I can do it.
we have two questions here. Do we have another mic? We have our UMI. It's not working. Okay. Could you guys come this way so that our it's working? Okay, so we could float the next mic down there.
Yeah, I know you too. But first off, congratulations on your award, because I think we're in the same boat, because I'm actually doing something amazing this year. This is my, I think, fourth, fifth time being like a supporter of BMI. I had a great question, and it had to do with mentorship and my community and others. How does that male achievement change lives within the sector of different places of the Bronx? And I have a quote that will end that off with the question that I came with. It is not deeply by measure, but within ourselves we are able to change the world. So what if we all have to change the world? But wait, there's more to that story. If we change the world, we might need to think about our behavior. And then the second thing we need to think of is, what are we bringing to the table? So that was one of my questions.
So I'm going to bring it down to the Bronx. And tell me your name again. Makia. I do a workshop at Hostos Community College, and she's been a part of that. And if you mention the Bronx, I would first say take a look at Eagle Academy in the Bronx, and one of their strategies is making sure that every young person has a mentor. And not only can it change a sector, mentoring, I think, mentoring can shift the atmosphere of a room. It can shift the atmosphere of a community. But our young men and young women, they need to be able to see it, right, in order for them to be it, right? And in order for you to strive for something, you have to have that picture and that image. And mentoring is about, this person has some qualities and values. It might be a job, but they have something that I like and I'm attracted to. Let me find out how they did it. So they can show you the mistakes that they made, the paths that they took. And the thing I will say in closing with that answer is about mentoring. I think it's just important for mentors to be vulnerable enough to share with young people the mistakes and the places that they have fallen and how they have gotten up from their falls and they have dusted themselves off. We think that they want to hear about our successes and our degrees and all that. No. People want to hear about how did you fall on your face like I'm falling now, and how did you recover? So that vulnerability is real important.
We'll take the 3 questions over there to the left, and then we'll conclude with these 2 here.
Thank you for.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, so my name is Quante Turner. I'm the diversity coordinator for a college out in Worcester Polytechnic Institute. And so my question was, I deal with a lot of students and trying to help them find their gold inside them. But how do I encourage them to then go out and try to help the younger ones to find their gold? So it's almost extending them, the young people I have with me today. How did I help them find their G-spot and then help them to help others find their G-spot?
So I think you can start that right now. So I know the community of Worcester, right? And what you can do, you can bring young people from the community of Worcester right on your campus and start a mentoring program with your college students, a tutoring program with your college students. And discovering your G-spot is a process. Sometimes you got to find out what you don't like and what you're not called to in order to find out what you are called to, right? And so you got to keep reinforcing it, right? Talking about giving back. But they don't have to wait, right? If you're a college student, there are high school students in Worcester, Mass. that want to know, how did they become college students? And they don't want to necessarily listen to an old guy like me, right? They want to hear it from someone that's a few years ahead of them. So the question that you're asking, you already have the answer to. You can go back and launch. Does Worcester Polytech Institute have a BMI? So you're going to go back and you're going to start one, right? And that's how you do it. And I'll be happy to give you my card to, coach and mentor you and help you with that.
Greetings.
Hey.
You told us to be careful with the spells that we cast with our words. So I wanted to know, how did you find a good balance between talking and doing?
That's an everyday thing, brother. So I shared that, I keep a journal. I've been keeping a journal since I was 14 years old, right? And it's amazing to go back in the journal and see things that I wrote and I said I was going to do 1 year and realizing that it didn't happen until a few years later, right? So the biggest thing for me is overcoming fear, right? And having the faith, because you will look around and people are doing things and you'll say, well, they don't seem as talented as me. How come they're doing this? How come they've pushed back their fear, pushed through their fear? And if somebody's telling you that they don't have any fear about their goals, I don't think they're being honest, right? It's about moving past the fear, right? And I also think that for me, success breeds success. And you don't have to go out and write a best-selling book tomorrow, but you can write a blog. You can write a longer than usual email. You can just start with little steps in building your confidence, right? But I will tell you that it's a daily battle. You will look at people from the outside that look like they got it all together, look like they all this success. They deal with the same struggles that you may deal with confidence, with can I do it? Which voice do I listen to? And I didn't share my entire story, but I've had a lot of pain, a lot of hardship, and all I have to do is look back at my story and say, do you want to go back to what you were doing before? No, so let's keep pushing forward.
Hello, my name is Asiatu. I'm from LaGuardia Community College.
LaGuardia Community College with Dr. Ferguson.
My question is, what specific components for success would you give? Would you want as a mentor and an educator? Would you give to another person who is trying to pursue to be a mentor and an educator?
So, what specific components of success that allows you to go on and be a good mentor? So, for me, there are like 7 principles that I want to lift up, and I can come back and do that workshop. But one is calling, right, and understanding that you have a specific calling on your life that you are born to do, right? And life is really about discovering that calling, understanding your gifts and your strengths. Number 2 is courage, right? And we heard about courage with the scared brother, the scared servant that buried his talent, right? Being able to face your fears and have the courage. I grew up when I was younger on 119th Street and Lenox Avenue, and the older guys were playing dice. They were playing craps. They used to say, scared money don't win, scared money don't win. And I was, as a young kid, I was like, what the heck does that mean? Scared money don't win. But when I got old enough to get into the dice game, I realized scared money don't win is that if you don't try, you're not going to win anything, right? So calling, courage, and this whole notion of completion, of seeing the vision to the end, writing it down, an exercise that I would encourage all mentees and young people to do, get a blank piece of paper. Today is October 16th, 2015. I would put the title of that blank piece of paper of October 16th, 2016, and then write down what's going to be happening in your life on that day. Write that sense of completion. The other thing is about credibility and character and building trust. The 5th thing is about collaboration and working together. The 6th thing is change and knowing that shift happens, right? You have the best laid plans and shift happens, and your ability to bounce back from adversity. Do I need to spell shift for folks? Okay, all right. And you're going to, and this is what we can teach mentees as a mentor, stuff is going to happen to you, and it's not how far you fall, it's how high you bounce. And the last C is coaching, that even if you're a mentor, hopefully you need to have someone that's mentoring you. And just as the sister from WPI said, how are we teaching our young people to be coaches and mentors? You know, you could be in 10th grade, and you can be a coach and a mentor to someone that's in 8th grade, and that's in 7th grade. So, those are 7 of many other things that, I pour into my life as far as being a good mentor. But I call those the 7 C's of deep in leadership. Yeah, I hear stomachs growling, so.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry. name is Deirdre Williams. I'm from City Tech. I have a question, like, when you started up your business. I also want to do that. My major now is civil engineering, but I don't really want to do that for the rest of my life. I plan to do it in like 15 years, then open up my own business, a youth center, a daycare, and so. See?
Get here. Use my mic.
Oh, okay. Oh, this speaks. Daycare and so on. So I was wondering, is like with a mentoring program, the funding. I know you said you asked for a certain amount, but they didn't. But what was the struggle, and like when did it finally like push and become known and business started flowing?
So, the question was, when I started and I spun off, when did things begin to flow? And Deidre, you said you want to start your own daycare center. So this didn't happen overnight, right? I showed you the picture of me and Sad Sack and Puppet. Those were their nicknames. I was Yogi because they said I look like Yogi Bear. I didn't know that what I'm doing today, God was sowing those seeds way back then, right? And if you want to run your own daycare center, number one, you should work at one, right? You do and know the ins and out. So all my life, I've been around social entrepreneurs and business people that poured in that seed inside of me to do it, right? And it's hard, right? I'm 9 months, 10 months into being a new CEO. And every day, it's a learning day. I have executive coach. I make mistakes, right? I tell my team, at least make one mistake a week to remind yourself that you are human. I should tell them make one a day, right, Erica? Erica, stand up. Erica's Bullock. She's on the campaign for Black Male Achievement team as a communications associate. And it's really, wrote down this vision, and I was obsessed about it. I had this vision of creating a corporation for Black Male Achievement. We were planning for it. Then the foundation, once Obama announced that he was going to do My Brother's Keeper, they said, oh, this corporation idea is off the table. But we had also created something called the Institute for Black Male Achievement. And I said, if the corporation is off the table, then I'm spinning off the Institute for Black Male Achievement, because I was obsessed about creating an entity that would lean into this issue for the long haul and not just when it's a fad and philanthropy. So if that dream is in you and you're obsessed, no matter, do a little bit each day. And have people that you know that have run daycare centers that you can talk to, and they can show you the ropes to jump and the ropes to skip. You already, so you have a mentor in the field. Yeah, sure.
First, I want to thank you for being here today, Shawn. Can you hear me? All right. Hi, my name is Kevin. I left college 2008. Last year I went back. I'm at LaGuardia Community College. Became chair senate. I'm an ASAP student. Being a college dropout, this is my first year. Do you mind if I do it about the mic?
You want to use mine or you want to do it out?
I want to do it about.
Okay.
My name is Kevin Nunez. I'm from LaGuardia Community College. I'm an ASAP student. I'm also, a few weeks ago, I testified for the Higher Education Committee. I took a photo of Inez Rivers today. She recognized me for because I testified for the Obama Spell Pilot Program. Incarcerated students are getting tapped. And now the thing
question, tell me your name again? Kevin Nunez asks, how do you get out of your comfort zone? He made the comparison that he only asked and got 2 business cards, but he thought that they were very important. And I think the gist of the question is, how do you get out of your comfort zone? He shared that he was feeling a little shaky being here today, right? But I think we need to give him a round of applause for just coming up and asking that question, right? The challenge is getting comfortable being outside your comfort zone. Nothing amazing in your life is ever going to happen while you're in your comfort zone. Terry Williams, who is a public relations maven and wrote a number of books. A number of years ago when I was running this newspaper called Harlem Overheard, and she came and she spoke to my young people. And she said something really powerful that has stuck with me. And she said to the young people, but sometimes, you'll be in a room and you think it's for somebody else, and it boomerang and it ricochets for you. And she said, if you are not leaving your house in the morning with butterflies in your stomach on most days to do whatever you've been called to do to come out of your house, you are not living with your fullest potential, right? So the butterflies and the uncomfort, if you're not feeling that, you're not tapping into what's inside of you, right? So I have no magic pill to ease the comfort zone, right? But the more you try it, the more you do it, the more you do it, right? So let's take it back to the old school party, right? Music's jamming, right? You're against the wall. See somebody over there that you want to go ask to dance, right? And it might be the whole party goes by and you don't leave the wall, right? The next week, same thing, might be the same person. You're up against the wall. You start walking towards her to ask her for a dance, but zoom, somebody beats you to it, right? You're in the middle of the dance floor, right? So you done got off the wall. You done got in the middle of the floor. The next week, you're at the party, and you're like, I done got off the wall. Let me do it now and go and ask for that dance. And the next thing you know, you're doing in the middle of the floor, the wobble, or whatever dance you're doing, right? So I'm just bringing it to relate as far as terms. There's a whole workshop that I do with young men around how we pursue. So someone will say no. We'll go look for a job, and someone will say no right away, and we'll be like, fine, that's it. But when we're trying to get a date, a kiss, persistence comes in then, right? We don't accept that, we keep knocking, right? We get out of our comfort zone. We use creative visualization. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that we use on that area of our life, but when it comes to school and work and jobs and all of that, we don't use. So there is no magic pill. If you are uncomfortable, that means you're being pulled out into the deep end. And the more you do that, you'll get comfortable, and then you got to stretch yourself some more.
So let us thank Shawn Dove once again. And I've stood in the way of you and food for long enough. So what we'll do is we'll actually split it right down the middle. So everyone to my left, your right, could have dinner on that side. You can line up towards the window. And then everyone on my right, your left, can do the same. So please enjoy, and thank you for joining us for our 10th annual CUNY BMI conference.